it's Sean here from Sean Fit for Life. I'm going to be today's host. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I work with athletes primarily, and one of the things I do is I expose myself to many different forms of exercise so I can be a greater trainer and coach. So today we have in the show, I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey guys, I'm Robbie Pupko. I'm 20 years old from Jerusalem. I train mainly body weight, if it's hand balancing or just conditioning. I call myself on Instagram Movement AP because I just try to do movement, move around, explore, do as many sports and as many movements as I could reach. I've competed this year on Ninja Warrior in season 3, and excited to be here.
Thanks for coming abroad. Thanks for coming along. Now, I actually met Avram last year, a different friend of mine and trainer as well, Rafa, who was competing in the Ninja Israel last year. So me and Avram went along to cheer him on, and we just kind of connected on a personal level, same energy, same vibes, and that's where I got the privilege to know this person right next to me. So, something I know that, brother, do you prefer to be called Avram? Is that
Yeah, that's good.
Sweet. Something I know that Avram has done in his past is he did a very popular course called Movement, which was created by a guy named Ido Portal. Now, for those who aren't familiar, Avram is going to explain what movement is, what he experienced with it, and how it influenced him to the person he is today.
Well, I found Ido Portal through Conor McGregor from UFC. I saw him training him different nuances. I love Conor McGregor's movement way before he was a champ. I saw his nuances of like small movements, proper reactions, not overdoing it, and you just train differently than everybody else. And I was like, this looks interesting. This looks good. It looks real. It looks like something we should do as humans. And I just looked into Ido Portal, found out he's Israeli, which was exciting, and just started researching as much as I could. And I found out how much he just brings sort of human possibilities into life. Instead of just training gymnastics or doing acrobatics or doing capoeira, he just brought it all along and just advance yourself as a human and just control your body as much as possible, know yourself more. And he always talks about just not necessarily doing his method, so to speak, but just try to explore as much as you can. So I really loved it, so I took his course, joined him for sort of 2 years, and then on and off after that. And in those 2 years, I progressed faster than anything I've done, like I could imagine before. If it's with movement, if it's with flexibility, mobility, control, something that I thought would be like hard to get and hard to maintain was hard to achieve, but so easy to maintain because I worked so properly with such a good base that I learned skills now that I never thought I would. And what he talks about is when you explore so many different things and when you bring yourself to trying different movements and different patterns, your brain connects all those dots together, and you could adopt so much faster to everything else, and you bring your body and your mind to a place where it almost like you create yourself sort of a, how do you call it? I guess sort of a puzzle that connects to everything. And anything new you're learning, your body will be like, all right, I know it's different, but I've done that before. So I'll learn very fast. So the concept of was basically pretty simple, I'd say. We have monkeys, we have bears, ducks, penguins, so many different animals. Each animal has a certain pattern, a certain movement. They can't mimic each other. They each have their own movement, their own pattern. They can't mimic their counterpart pattern. What we can do as humans, which is amazing, is take different skills from different animals and learn them and develop them. If it's crawling like a lizard, if it's walking like a duck, if it's running around like a monkey, and we could bring it all, learn the best of the best, because the monkeys, the animals, each one has his pattern and he's the best at it, and adopt to it in our own training. So that, I would say, in a nutshell, there's a lot more to it. The world of movement, yeah.
Why do humans need to move like a duck, like a lizard, like a monkey? I'm a human, I don't really care. I'm sitting comfortably in a chair. It's not relevant for me, or at least I don't feel it is. And number two, how come humans are able to combine all those qualities? You just said like a bear can only do a bear, so what makes it so unique that we can't do all those?
That's a question that has boggled me once in a while. I get to myself like, why the heck am I doing this? Like, what's the purpose of that? And essentially, is like because I can. I mean, for starters, I can do it. I can develop there. So why not make myself the best possible me as I could be? If it's physically and mentally, obviously, we see all the physical side. We train physically, but we develop while doing those things. We develop our brain into something. We have. I mean, the fact that you could all of a sudden juggle so fast because you train movement, or the fact that your coordination is better, doesn't only give you the ability to say, okay, I can do a backflip, I can have better coordination. Your brain makes connections in different waves that allow you to progress in so many different aspects. And for me, the biggest one would be mental. That I could actually, from the physical knowledge that I know I could control my body, that I can move, that I worked hard for it, so I'm confident in myself, to the actual patterns in my brain of just knowing and developing that it just changes you, so to speak. You become more alert, you become more alive. Anybody who's done any movement, or actually anybody who's done exercise in general, if it's push-ups, pull-ups, you'll feel this feeling of like energy, this power, this force that allows you to do so much more than you could imagine. So think of doing pull-ups and push-ups just on steroids and just really controlling everything. That brings you into this like being so light physically and mentally, to be able to push and move forward with so many different aspects.
But how does that answer the question of why animals? Like, why do we want to be like animals?
So
let me reflect on what you said for a second.
Yeah.
Basically, you're saying that as humans, we have this like greater ability. We're greater than them. But why animals? Like, why don't I look at the crane outside they're building construction and say, I want to be like a crane?
Right. It's as simple as animals are the oldest natural form of movement. They're like sort of the next step under us. Like people believe in evolution or things like that. They have their natural abilities are there for a reason. If they're hunters, if they're gatherers, if they have to know how to hide properly. Each one has this skill to survive. So by us human beings, we live in a comfortable world where we used to be hunters, we used to be everything, and now we live in a world where we're comfortable. We don't need anything actually. We really don't need nothing to survive in this world.
We can just sit on our couch all day and order on Amazon, groceries straight to our door, not even have to lift a finger to do anything. We can live in the comfort of our couch, which is terrible as humans.
Exactly. And we're meant to move. We're meant to jump. We're meant to hunt. That's what we're created for. And we sort of forgot all that. So now that we don't need to hunt, we don't have it as an essential. It became an essential from a different aspect, for just us being us, and being able to move. So animals obviously are the oldest and most pure form of movement to learn from.
Interesting. Now, as a coach and trainer yourself, would you, now that you've done the movement program, you went on to climbing, you've moved on to the ninja, which we'll speak about soon. Is movement a program you'd recommend to a beginner who comes to you, or would you give them one of your own programs, or mix and match it a bit?
That's a good question, because I mean, giving movement as a beginning, as anything, I would always advise. But then comes the question of, well, I could barely, I don't know, I can't touch the floor, I can't touch my toes, I could barely be in a push-up position, I can't be in a squat. What do you expect from me? So obviously there's a combination. When I'll give a program to someone who's like a beginner, so as much as movement and just improvisation is something I truly believe in and I think is essential, you need the tools to get there. Because we're so lazy and we haven't done anything, you need the tools. So as a program, I would give something basics, like basic as in developing basic strength. If it's pulling, pushing, squatting, or just general movement and progressing with small progressions of muscle development, and at the same time start developing new ranges of motion, work on some mobility. So obviously the program will contain mostly physical and basic strength and basic work. And eventually you add different movement patterns, and slowly but surely it's amazing. Each student and each person even though as a coach I'll give them the same sort of patterns or sort of things to work on, because after all, you can be creative, but there's only so much you can be creative with. Eventually, each student becomes his own mover. You can see different like mindsets and different personalities within their movement, which is incredible.
Got you. How you doing in there? Freezing your ass off a
Nice
bit?
and cold. Nice and cold. Starting to shiver a little. It's good.
Sweet. All right. So last week's record was 70 minutes. So we're gonna see if you can break that. No, I'm just kidding. So moving on to movement pros and cons. I'm gonna start. The way I see it as a coach is like this. If someone wants general fitness, general athleticism, general the ability to recover their body's function, as Avram was speaking about before, the ability to touch their toes, the ability to do a push-up, it's a great program. And I think Ido Portal, when he created it, was trying to create something that was the polar opposite of the gym. Like you go into the gym, you do 3 sets of bench press of 10, and then you do a superset on the squat and you do this. He wanted something totally different, totally like, no, you don't need a gym. No, you don't really need much equipment. You do need to move though, you do need to function. And when he created it, it was a newer thing. There wasn't all this like concept of functional training that that started recently. So it's great for someone who wants something a little bit different. But, and here's the big but, as someone who trains athletes, it can be one of the worst things for them. And I'm going to tell you a story. I walked into my gym, 2 soccer guys were training. They were high school athletes, maybe 14, 15 years old. They were doing, their triple extension work, their heavy squat work, which is super crucial for speed development. They're like, yo, Sean, you know about this movement gym? A new one opened up in Tel Aviv. We'd like to go. So I sat down and I said, look, movement's great. But you guys are soccer athletes. You have to work on getting faster, getting more agile, getting more explosive, getting more aggressive, getting better with your ball skills. Movement is everything but that. So if you want to work on something specific, work at it. Don't do a general all-inclusive program that makes you move like a duck or a lizard, even though I think that's really cool. And I personally add tons of mobilizations for movement. I practiced handstanding for many years. Like, I think there's a lot to learn from it. If you want to get better at handstand, you can ask the Hand Balance Pro right here. Handstand. Go do handstands. Or go work on your shoulder stability and strength to get better at handstands.
Yeah.
Doing an all-inclusive program, while it may be good for your long-term health and mobility, it's not going to specifically get you a better at handstand. And I've seen many people I'm just bringing up handstand because they specifically went to the movement program because it's known for its handstand, and they're doing all their mobility flows, and I'm like, okay, great, you did your mobility flow, you look really cool, you look like, what's his name, Roy, you look like Roy Gold, really cool, you could do like a single-legged pistol hip extension, but can you do handstands yet? And they're like, no. I said, okay, so why don't you do a hand balance program? That is the major, I would say, pro and con. What would you say your pros and cons are?
Well, for starters, movement, as much as people might believe in it and hear it, it's very hard to practice if you are.
What do you think of the microphone? Is good?
That's the new one. It's very hard to practice if you don't have a good base, you know?
Yeah. You cold now?
Yeah, I'm cold.
Yeah.
If it's very hard to practice an approach if you don't have a good base, or if you don't enjoy it very much.
Mm-hmm.
You could do it but it takes 2 things. Either you really enjoy it, or you're really mentally strong, so you could approach this practice that takes a lot of thought and like improvisation while you don't really enjoy it. That's a very hard thing to do. But what you said about athletes, I really connect to, because as an athlete myself, I compete, if it's climbing, if it's ninja, I do train specific things for it. So you sort of don't really care about everything else. You want to just advance your performance at the highest level possible. You don't really care for different stability exercises if it doesn't help. What I would say, even for professional athletes, and I've trained with and professional athletes, is obviously you have to focus on your sport. You have to be one with your sport. Put everything you can into your sport to be the best possible athlete you can, because that's what you're doing. And do every exercise possible to better yourself. But what I've seen with a lot of athletes, and recently it came to light where you see athletes who put all their time into training, but they'll give themselves a corner in the week, if it's once, if it's twice a week, to develop this movement and coordination and just general movement exercises, I guess, or just practice, where they, so to speak, don't focus on anything and just move. And for the most part, I've seen it as a huge pro, because it just gives their body sort of a break from this insanity and some connection and contact. So when they come back to the training, they have a bit more coordination, they're a bit more stability, and it's not necessarily physical. You might be physically as strong and not just you might not progress physically from it. You probably won't if you're just doing it a little bit once in a while. But it will but it will give you, as I catch my breath. But it will give you sort of how do you call it?
Confidence.
It will give you confidence, but no, it'll,
Advantage.
more than that, it'll connect when it'll connect the dots when the time comes. When you practice, when you compete, when you move, it'll connect the dots. So obviously, it's very hard to do. I wouldn't put all my how do you call it, all my
Energy,
eggs in the
mental
one
energy.
basket, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would sort of add it in some way. If it's post-session movement, like after your actual athletic exercise movement, yeah, or things like that. So it has its moments. It needs energy. It needs more than physical energy. It needs like your attention. So,
Got you. I think what I'm going to reflect on what Avram said. It ties into a greater discussion that perhaps we could have on a future podcast: exercise versus movement. Exercise is when you're training for a specific goal. I want to be a better linebacker. I have to be strong, explosive, and know how to tackle people and take on blocks. I want to have fun. I want to be able to move better, throw a frisbee better, whatever, chill. That's movement. When I walk to the grocery store, I'm not exercising. I'm moving to get to the grocery store. When I'm playing with Charlie and throwing my frisbee around, I'm not saying, "Oh, I'm getting my workout in now." I'm moving because I have to. We can learn that from animals. Actually, we said before, is they move because they're required to. If I don't take Charlie out for a walk, he starts moving himself because he realizes I need to expand this energy. So we're just going to reflect on what we said, and we're going to finish with that when it comes to movement. As an athlete, you need to exercise. You must be doing a specific goal. You want to add some movement-related stuff, whether or not it's Ido Portal's movement or just throwing on a frisbee or slacklining or climbing, as the supplement to your regimen. Go for it, but make sure that it's not taking away from your recovery time to get better at whatever sport or endeavor you're trying to get better. That's it regarding movement. We're going to move on to your recent experience with Ninja Israel.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Ninja Israel is just a complete ripoff of Ninja, what's it called? American Ninja Warrior. It's just Ninja Yisrael. Yisrael is Israel in Hebrew. And me and Avram met there last year when we were cheering on another friend of mine. And he competed this year. He's in the semifinals, so it's really a privilege to have him here. And yeah, could you tell us a little bit about your experience and what type of athletes do you feel always dominate the Ninja?
Whew, Ninja.
Oh, you're cold, you're warm, how you doing?
I'm nice and cold. Actually,
He's at around half an hour in the ice bath, so we got another like 40 minutes to go. We're going to be last week's record.
Yeah. So first of all, the decision to go to Ninja. I mean, as a movement athlete and as a just athletic person in general, going into like a specific sport requires a certain focus and sort of changing your regimen slightly. Meaning, I would train 6 times a week, up to 2-3 hours, 2 different sessions a day. Very like aware. Woke up every morning, felt strong. I had like a specific base. All of a sudden, I'm training for Ninja, and I'm training 3 hours a day.
You touched on that. That one, you were just training for general movement. I want to be in shape. I want to be strong. To here, I need to get better at something.
Exactly.
Changes everything.
So I train Ninja for 3 hours a day. All of a sudden, the next 2 days, I'm like broken. My body can't move. I can't do anything, literally. And it just changed everything. All of a sudden, I'm training 3 to 4 times a week, 2-3 hours. Completely different, and some conditioning, but mainly Ninja. There for 3 months, and competing in Ninja. Wow. For me, the hardest obstacle, because physically I'm pretty good. I can train a lot. I'm pretty coordinated. It's just mentally getting there. It's a long day, like filming and just in the sun.
A lot of reality TV shows.
So much. It's like 90% reality TV. Then you have 5 minutes on the course. And you get there, you barely warm up, you get on there, you have a buzzer, 1, 2, 3, go.
I'm getting stressed just hearing about it. Like, ooh, I remember being there last year.
Yeah. And the hardest obstacle was like the first obstacle, because I was like so stressed. My heart was pumping. And after I got through the first one, I got into some zone. And I sort of performed on my level, which I was excited about.
You got into like your serenity?
So to speak, yeah. And it was also very hard because on my episode, 70% of the people fell in the second obstacle. It was super tough.
Woo!
I'm talking about 40.
What was the second
It
obstacle?
was this like wheel of pain.
Oh no.
No, it's not painful. You have to just sort of grab on 4 holds and squat down and just turn sideways, which was I mean, it was okay once I did it right, but before me, 10 guys went and 9 of them fell.
Maybe we can reference a video of that if you have it in the comments below.
Yeah. And it was an incredible experience. I mean, just being able to be there, knowing the pressure, knowing how hard I worked, and then putting it all together, and being able to get into my zone with the cameras and the light and my family and everything around. So it's a real like character builder because it puts you in a position where you've never been before, and you all of a sudden have to like, all right, this is it. Take a deep breath. You have one shot. There's no second chances. You can't try that course before a lot of people ask me. You just get there and get on there. You can tell you inform you of the rules. That's it. Take it. Go for it. So it's a I mean, I loved it because it just anything could happen, and you can never like prepare for the exact thing that's going to be because it's always going to be a surprise. And then you could see that you asked about the athletes who do well there. I mean, at first, because it's the new sport here, climbers do the best, and it's very simple because they train all day finger and arm strength and endurance. And climbing is very, very movement based. They always work with their body. They have to create problems. They have to solve problems. So they would be like the #1 contenders. Then comes the calisthenic community that do a little bit of movement, and do a little body conditioning, but not as much. So you have to really focus a little more. But as the sport progresses, and you can see it in the States, more ninja athletes are like ninjas, not climbers.
Right, meaning what Ninja did, kind of like what CrossFit did, what Movement did, is they created their own category of athletes. Nope, I'm not a climber. Nope, I'm not a gymnast. I'm a ninja. I'm good at X, which is great because they're making it like in order to be better at the ninja, you have to specifically train for it, not just be like, oh, whatever, I climbed for 5 years, let me go compete. That was kind of what the first year in Israel looked like.
Yeah, a bunch of climbers in finals. That's it.
Yeah. The winner was a climber actually.
Yeah, and that last year, like guy who does more like my style of just movement and bodyweight exercises, he dope or tall based. He won last year, so it's a monster of a show.
Sounds terrifying just hearing about it. I personally, as a ball sport athlete, so we have like in a regular tackle football season, we have 8 to 11 games. So like, you mess up on the first game, it's okay. You still have 9 more to go. With him, like, you train for this year, you have one shot, you fall, boop, bye, have a nice day. And what makes it even more scary is that, like, I totally relate to what you were saying about like the dread and the fear building up. Look, I can't sleep the night before a football game, even if it's not like an important game. I have nightmares, and I just get into this like, oh my god, football game tomorrow. And the second I get on the field, I'm completely calm. It reminds you of that song we like. It's just like, I'm on the field, I know what to do, or if I don't know what to do, then I'll just pretend I know what to do and just moving on.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for speaking about that. Moving on to the last thing I wanted to speak about today. Cold exposure. So the reason why I chose to speak about this in this episode with Avram, even though the guy last week also was a Wim Hofer, is you did a Wim Hof course, correct? So can you tell us a little bit, like in summary, what the Wim Hof course is and why cold exposure may or may not be good for you? You good?
Yeah.
So far, by the way, we're at around 45 minutes of ice bathing. My record's 12 minutes, so someone will have to interview me sometime.
It all ties up to like what I talked about movement, where you develop yourself in general. I mean, the base of it, of the whole course I took, is the more you expose yourself into new areas, the more you put your body in more compromising positions, the more you'll adopt, the stronger you'll get. So that's like the bottom line, which I love. I mean, there's so much to it.
Say it again. The more you put your body into compromised positions, the stronger you'll get. Yeah. So an ice bath is going to make me stronger, like I can gain strength from it? Physical strength? So
we're talking, there's so many different aspects of strength. So an ice bath, will be, I'll put it into 2 categories. There's the mental strength, of just being able to sit through it and saying, I'm good, breathe, let loose. You know? And the second
Let
thing,
it go. Deeply in.
And the second thing would be your immune system. Your immune system learns to fight this cold. All your heat system, everything in your body. I don't know to translate words of scientifically. I can tell you physically, as someone who doesn't understand the physiological body so much, how much it develops and gives you stronger, if it's the blood cells, if it's about your immune system. And I've approached it with being sick or not feeling well, and either we could do it sometimes with doing exercise, but ice bath is something that'll sort of take the edge off. It's like the extreme measure of like medicine. You could either put some aloe vera or go into ice bath, which will put yourself in like complete shock. To me, that's like it's enough when you tell me about ice bath. But there's a world of possibilities with it,
Right.
for just betterment.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Avram was saying. There's obviously, like back in the past 10 to 20 years, they've been saying, ice after injury. From recent studies, it shows that ice is not actually the best because it reduces inflammation, and you don't want to reduce inflammation after injury. So what me and Avram do it, and for all the other ice people out there like Clayton Moves and David Ben Moshe and whoever else is brave enough to go on ice baths in the winter, it's really about the mental toughness. So yes, it does change the way your physiology works, and yes, it does give you physical benefits. But if you have the balls to go into an ice bath in the winter, it says something about your character, and that's exactly why I chose to do this as the Cold Feet podcast, because I just didn't want to invite every random dude to do that to the show. I wanted someone who has a little bit more than the average person. It makes you overcome that mental thing. I just had an ice bath. What month is it? December. I just had an ice bath for half an hour in December. I could, do something else challenging in my life.
It puts you in a different position. If you start a day, forget about ice bath. With just a cold shower, 2 minute, 1 minute, cold shower, your day is like
Different.
a world of a difference. And I'll take you to the different step. I'm a free diver as well. I free dive.
Among the other 1,000 things you do.
And there's the question of how do you approach big steps in life. I mean, not in life. And just it's the easiest thing to like translate it to its physical, achievements, I guess. So how do you approach like something incredible, something scary, something new? And in freediving, we have a rule where we take 6 breaths, 6 proper long breaths. It takes about 6 minutes for 6 breaths. Think about that. And
I think the cold is getting to his brain, so he's like, okay.
Yeah, literally 6 minutes for 6 breaths, and then we dive. There's no questions. So there's 2 things to it. Number 1 is when we get to the 6th breath, you always want to take another one. You always do. And you tell yourself, okay, I took 6, that's enough. I'm going in, I practiced it, it's all good. The second thing, I don't necessarily believe in taking a breath and going for it if you're not ready. So those 6 breaths are like a mark of like, that's it, the time has come, but you only do it because you're ready. It means even in the first breath, this is like you practice, you're ready. You're not going to take a huge leap, a jump, or something that'll risk your life, because I took a deep breath and I'm gonna go for it. You go for it because you're ready, but you break that barrier by making something, taking some mark or some breaking point that'll help you decide. If it's a breath, if it's closing your eyes for a second, if it's saying a prayer, I don't know what it is, before competitions or whatever it is, to help you sort of take that next step.
I think what Avram is saying, reflecting here, is you're picking one thing that's not easy to give you like a little bit of a mental checklist. Like, okay, I did my 60 breaths, I'm ready to roll. I did my 15-second ice bath, I'm ready to roll. And the reason why it's such a great thing to do is because it's not easy. Now, you don't even have to do 2 minutes in the shower. You can do 15 seconds. You can take your regular hot shower, soap up, you gotta do 15 seconds of cold water at the end. And it ties into what we were saying at the beginning of the podcast. We could live our entire lives sitting on our couch doing nothing. Our fridge will fill through Amazon fridge or whatever it is. We don't have to move. We can order food. We can work online. Our kids don't even have to go to freaking school anymore. They just go through Zoom. And doing that little act for yourself and for your brain and to overcome mental barriers is so much greater. It gives us this greater sense of purpose. Almost.
Yeah.
It's why everyone who's in movement, everyone who Wim Hof's, it's not just physical. It's spiritual. Now, spiritual doesn't inherently mean God. It could mean I'm doing something for something that's greater than me. And obviously that ties into spirituality.
Yeah.
I think we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for coming on the show. It's really, really a privilege to have you here and good to see you. It's been a while.
Happy to be here.
One of these days someone will have to interview me as well. So I sit here, break some records because I'm sitting in this comfy chair in my comfy warm sweatpants. Anything else you want to share with the audience?
Just one simple step I like sharing with people after I finish.
Something.
I gave over lectures after every lecture. That's something I like to share. Anything you do, all right, think about that. All right, don't change anything in your life. Live your life, but before you do anything, even the smallest things, ask yourself this question: do I want to do it, or do I need to do it? Now I'll explain. We have fears, we have worries, we have our chores, we have our life that we have to be a part of, and we do because we're in it. We can't just quit. We go to school because we're told to go to school. We don't do things because they're dangerous and people talk about them, and you just sort of follow certain rules in life that are unwritten, but we do them. And those fears and those rules are like something much bigger than us because we haven't practiced it. And like every muscle, you have to develop it. So simply ask yourself, do I want to do it or do I need to do it? It won't change what you do. Keep doing what you do, but it will give you more awareness and develop that muscle in your brain, like any muscle. We have a brain, and develop that muscle of the knowledge and being connected to what you want and who you are. So, sort of strengthening your belief and your connection with yourself. Once you have that connection, and you want to do something new, that muscle should be stronger than your fear, that you can overcome because you know you can and you know you want it. So, all the best.
All right, we'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, and let us know if there's someone you'd like us to interview or if there's certain topics or discussions you'd like us to talk about.
Hell yeah.
Have a good one, all.
Peace out. That was awesome.